Behind closed doors to try to come up with a plan to fix the debt crisis. Ultimately, breaking the deadlock boils down to whether Speaker Boehner and President Obama can see eye to eye. David Hawkings is the editor of the CQ Roll Call Daily Briefing. And thanks, David, for being with us. All right, if Boehner does announce what's being reported as a sort of two-part framework plan, $1 trillion in cuts of spending and then a short-term increase in the debt ceiling, assuming that is what is presented, and assuming that passes the House, how would you handicap that in the Senate and with the President?
Well, I think that the odds would be that anything that can pass the House can pass the Senate. The House remains number one with a bullet in terms of the difficulty here. It always has been. You've got to remember that it's a Democratic House and a Democratic President. Democratic Senate and Democratic President, and so whatever those two will go for, whatever the House can pass. And for weeks, months now, the key question has been, what is the magic formula that can pass the House? And it seems as though my gut tells me that the Speaker is going to come out. Probably what's happened here is that the Speaker and the President have come to some sort of tentative agreement, and that the President is now going to explain to Mrs. Pelosi and Senator Reid what that would be and see if they would be willing to get behind it. And again, they would be encouraged to get behind it if, presumably, Speaker Boehner says that he can get this one through the House.
Yeah. Take a listen to Tim Geithner, who appeared today on Fox News Sunday.
I never thought they would take it this close to the edge and let politics get in the way of demonstrating that we'll pay our bills on time.
All right, how naive is that? I never thought they'd take it to the edge. That's what Washington always does.
I was chuckling. I think that we have seen this coming for months, really since April, since the last miniature budget crisis happened, remembering that budget crisis they fought over in April was about 5% the size of the one we're talking about now. Nothing focuses the attention of politicians like a deadline, and both sides really are trying to take this to the last minute. They're both trying to keep their leverage in the game up until the last possible second.
Well, the acrimony has been quite striking, especially about this, David. Speaker Boehner claims he had a deal with the President in which Boehner, would grant a huge concession of about $800 billion in new revenues, which many Republicans, as you know, are against. Then days later, Boehner claims the President suddenly added another $400 billion, which was a deal breaker. What are you hearing? Did the President sandbag Boehner?
Well, the President says that's not so. Of course, predictably, the President and his people say that this was an exchange of proposals, and it was an offer. It was not a take it or leave it. It was not a final offer. Anybody who knows negotiating, there's a certain language of this. This is my last, final, best offer. The President says he didn't say that, but that Speaker Boehner, presumably after hearing it, we have the impression that he spoke with the Majority Leader, Mr. Cantor, who is really his lieutenant in this. They're a little bit of rivals, but he also knows, Speaker Boehner does, that definitely nothing is going to get through the House unless Mr. Cantor says it's okay, and that they decided this wasn't okay and stopped calling back. But you're right that the Friday was acrimony day. Remember that the headline Friday was Speaker Boehner said he was walking away from the talks, but by that night he made clear that he was going back to the talks on Saturday, has been involved all weekend. It was a day of histrionics at the start of the weekend that now does seem to be back on track. At least they're talking to each other.
Cut, cap, and balance died because Harry Reid wouldn't even allow it to get a vote, really, in the U.S. Senate. But I was looking at some poll numbers. 72% of Americans favor the last part of cut, cap, and balance, the balanced budget amendment. Yet the President dismisses the idea with the following words: we don't need a constitutional amendment to tell us how to do our jobs. You got to chuckle at that. Isn't the opposite self-evident? Our failure to balance actually justifies, if not demands, an amendment. We haven't been able to do it without it.
Well, we haven't been able to do it without it since 1997 to 2001, but the Congress has historically had plenty of times where they have balanced the budget. So it's not as though the country's budget has never been balanced. It was, in fact, balanced on September 11th. And then many, many things happened after that to make it unbalanced.
Right.
But I think that the president at least has an arguable point that the constitutional system is set up to allow it to happen. It's just been a lack of political will on both sides that's prevented it from happening for the last 10 years.
David Hawkings, thank you so much for being with us.
Thank you.